All right. Good Saturday morning, everyone. It's a big one. It's a big one coming down the pipe in about 28 and a half hours in Green Bay against the Packers with a pretty big amount on the line. I'm not going to say that our season is going to be made or broken this weekend. This is not an end all be all game. But what this game is a great opportunity for the Seahawks to do a few different things. Not just getting another win in the win column, not just notching a win against a good team, not just winning a game as an underdog, not going into a place that you've only won once in your franchise's history and winning, but building momentum and giving the fan base, and I'm talking about people like me who are dubious about this team's prospects going forward, giving people like me a reason to actually believe that this season could still get to the place that I wanted it to get to and needed it to get to before the season started. So, just because you can afford to theoretically lose this game and still get the season on the right track later, that doesn't mean that there isn't a whole lot on the line in this game. And I personally am going to learn a lot about this team and their makeup this weekend against the Packers. So let's talk about this game in terms of stuff on the field, the X's and O's, and the players who we're going up against, who we're going to be bringing to the table. But there's something more going on here than just the players. There's more going on here than just the factual stuff about going into hostile territory in a place that is very difficult to win. We know all these things about Lambeau Field. We know these things about the Packers and Aaron Rodgers and LaFleur, etc., etc. We know what's up. We have a pretty good idea of what's going on here, but there's a little more to this game than that, I think. So, main storyline right now, Russell Wilson is back. And he certainly changes this team's ceiling. This team's ceiling goes way up with him out on the field. With him out there, you can come back from large deficits. You can hit big plays that make an impossible game suddenly seem possible in 10 seconds. He can keep plays alive that seem like they're dead and would be dead in the hands of most other quarterbacks. He gives you a chance, and that chance has been sorely missed these last few weeks, these last few games. So that's obviously really exciting. I think that the Wilson saga got so big and so overwhelming everything else on this team that some people have kind of forgotten that this team really wasn't playing that well with Wilson. This team lost some games to they lost a game to a bad team with Wilson. They lost games they should have won with Wilson. So I'm not here to tell you that he's the solution to all of our problems, but suddenly anything is possible with him. I definitely would be throwing in the towel pretty early on this game if we still had Geno out there. So the good news is Wilson gives us a chance. He's going to be facing a team with a banged up secondary, no Jair Alexander, and possibly no Eric Stokes. Also, no Kenny Clark, which is not insignificant. But looking at this game, looking at this team, looking at the other team, looking at everything, it's clear that this game's probably going to come down to him. And that's not great. It's his first game back. He just screwed up his finger. It's a question mark if he should even be out there right now. I know that the doctors all say he's fine and the team says he's fine and he says he's fine, but you could argue that trying to come back after a month from an injury that is supposed to keep you out 6 to 8 weeks You can chalk it up to a great rehab. You can chalk it up to pain tolerance, but you can also possibly chalk it up to just coming back a little too soon because you want to get back out there. So it's not great, but that's the situation that we have right now. This team is ready to roll at receiver. Lockett, Metcalf. We're getting Eskridge back. Still got Everett. Still got Disley. That part of the offense is well loaded, and we know we don't have Chris Carson. And I like Alex Collins, but he's not a bell cow running back. He's not somebody that you want to feed the ball to over and over and over again up the gut, which unfortunately we've tried to do that before, and it works about as well as you would expect. So the reality is, our receivers against their banged up secondary, and without our starting running back, the game rests in the hands of Russell Wilson. So, what can we say about this game, given that it's going to really be up to Shane Waldron to hit the right buttons here. He's got to find the right buttons to push. He's got to find the right balance. You don't want to send Wilson out there against a decent defense. I'm not going to say they're great. They're not, but hey, they played a great game against Kansas City last week. They played some other good games so far this year. They have talent on that defense. Some of it's going to be on the sideline, it looks like, but they have some talent on that defense. You gotta find a way to incorporate Wilson's strengths and the things that he can do right now with the fact that he is coming back from this injury. And I don't know what the balance needs to be, but I'm not the guy getting paid millions of dollars to figure out what the balance should be. Shane Waldron, Pete Carroll, those guys are. So figure that out. And that's going to be the main key for me in this game, because ultimately it does come down to Wilson, and you got to find a way to let him take advantage of that weak Green Bay secondary without putting him in harm's way with that just healed finger. And on defense, there's a lot interesting there too. I know we're all thinking about Wilson right now, and don't get me wrong, I am too. Him being back is huge. Him being back it's massive. It cannot be understated. Or excuse me, it cannot be overstated how big getting Wilson back is. But I want to figure out what defense is the real defense here. Because this defense right now, I talked about this a little bit in the Hawks Nest stream, is 8th in the league in points allowed. They are a top 25 percentile defense in terms of points allowed right now. And they are bottom 2 in yards allowed. Something tells me that's not going to stand. Either we're going to stop giving up yards, we're going to start giving up points, or they meet in the middle somewhere. But I don't think you can go through a whole season expecting a trend like that to hold. It does happen. It doesn't happen that often. At the end of the day, whether or not you are good or bad tends to get rooted out at some point. So I think that we're about to really find out in these next 2 weeks against good offenses. And in Green Bay, we are playing an offense that is still going to be missing their left tackle, although they've missed him all season, so they're used to it, I guess. And I feel like with their limited receiver depth, they've got Devontae Adams, of course, and he's good to go, but St. Brown might not play, which leaves their receiver core just a little bit thin if he doesn't go. So there should be opportunities for this defense to play well. Our cornerback depth, which is questionable, should not be challenged too much, and there should be an opportunity to get some pressure against this line. So by the end of this 2-game stretch against Green Bay and Arizona, we should know if this defense is what they've been trying to tell us they are these last couple games, or if they are more like the defense in the Vikings game and the second half of the Rams game, and you could say maybe the end of the Titans game. I won't totally agree with you on that, but you could say that. So the real Seahawks defense needs to stand up, and the main guy I'm really looking at right now for that is Carlos Dunlap. I think that as the year has gone on, far too slowly for my taste, but nevertheless, as the year has gone on, this defense has started to fall into place. The safeties are playing very well right now, Quandre and Jamal. The cornerback situation got settled because DJ Reed got to move and Trey Brown started playing, and he's been playing quite well. Linebackers, they're all right. They're doing their thing. I think right now, I was really hard on Jordan Brooks earlier this season, but I think he's at least playing adequate football lately. And Bobby's still playing well, still playing fairly consistently. I'm starting to see some things from guys like the Kerry Hyders and the Robert Kimdichie had a great game against Jacksonville. Darrell Taylor's Darrell Taylor. We're seeing these positive things. The guy that I'm really looking at, though, is Carlos Dunlap, because we need another guy who can consistently crush single teams on the line, get to the quarterback, and not just allow teams to throw the kitchen sink at Darrell Taylor. If you can get situations where Taylor and Dunlap are routinely wrecking havoc on blocking schemes and backfields and opposing offensive lines, now you're talking. Now you can actually get something going here, because some of the weak links on this defensive line have basically been weeded out. Guys like Rasheem Green, they're not that good. Benson Mayowa is a jag at best, I would say, especially when it comes to rushing the passer. Like I don't have anything negative to say about him, but he is what he is. So it's got to be Dunlap. I do think he's playing a little better lately, especially that Jacksonville game, although that was shooting fish in a barrel. So if he actually starts playing the way he played in the second half of the season last year, now you're talking. Now it's a real defense. Now you have legitimately good players who are playing well and playing well together on all the different levels, and you have a chance. And you don't have to completely shut down these teams. This is not about holding the Packers to 3 points. I'm not asking for that. No way. But you got to give the team a chance to win. You can't give up 48 points. You can't force no punts the whole game. You can't give up every third down. Just give the team a chance to win, and I'll live with it. So that's about what I can say about this game in terms of the stuff on the field and our players versus their players, our coaches versus their coaches. But what this game really means to me is probably our best opportunity to get a skin on the wall. And what I mean by that is, if you look at this team, their remaining schedule, and the other teams in the conference that they're going to be competing against, when you do the math, there are 4 games that the Seahawks have left against really good teams. Green Bay, Arizona ×2, and LA. Every other team we play is below average at best. Some of them are outright bad. Some of them are among the worst in the NFL. So the Arizona game, the second Arizona game is Week 18. Arizona may have nothing to play for. They may not play starters. Very good chance that Arizona has no reason to bother playing starters in that game if the rest of their season goes according to plan. So let's say Arizona does rest starters in that game. That means all Seattle has to do is win the easy games, beat Arizona Week 18, again, presumably Arizona backups, and you're 9-8. If you look at the conference, 9-8 has a very good chance of getting you a playoff spot. So this Seattle team could go through this entire season without beating anybody better than below average. They could go an entire year without a single real quality win and get in the playoffs. But, and here's my thing, I'm not interested in that. To me, if we do that, then all we're doing is setting ourselves up for 41-17 in the first round of the playoffs. Setting ourselves up for 35-6 in the first round of the playoffs. Something like that. I want to see this team actually beat somebody good. And I want to see them overcome some stuff to do it. We need to see that at some point this season. Now, if we do it now and then we go dormant a little bit later on in the season, then even with that, I can say, okay, if this team wakes up, I know they can play with the big boys. But if I never see it, then what can I take from the playoff appearance at that point other than feeling the inevitability of getting whipped by a real team. So, for the sake of getting a skin on the wall, this team needs to come out against the Packers tomorrow and find a way to win. Because this is probably your best chance. And I know I say that even though we're playing this game in Lambeau, that probably sounds like it can't possibly be accurate. But Green Bay has problems. Aaron Rodgers is coming off of COVID. We don't know how that will affect his game. I know he's going to play, but I'm pretty positive he's going to play in this game. But even if he does play, we don't know how he's going to play. There's a lot of drama in Green Bay right now around that situation. They're missing Bakhtiari, possibly missing Kenny Clark, missing Jair Alexander, possibly missing Eric Stokes. This is a Green Bay team that is in a little bit of a not ideal place right now. They are not all the way themselves. Green Bay is still a really good team and still would be a really good win. But you probably won't get a better opportunity to score a big win. Because I'm looking at that Arizona game, and look, we don't know what's going on with Kyler Murray's leg. He could miss that game. He could be ineffective in that game. But I truly don't know how the hell we're going to stop that spread offense with this defense, especially with no Marquise Blair. I have no idea how our defense does anything against that offense. I'm looking at the Rams, who just keep adding players and players and players, and already terrible matchup for us, as has been proven already once this year in terms of our defense versus their offense. I don't know what we do in that game, honestly. Like maybe our offense can get rolling by that point. Maybe Wilson will be 100% by then and ready to go, but that could be an ugly game for our defense. So I'm really looking at this Green Bay game as our best chance to get that skin on the wall. And if we don't get it here, we might not get it. And look, like I said, we can still make the playoffs without a single impressive win. But I'm not going into this season saying that the end goal is a playoff berth. And I don't think anybody should. That's the bare minimum. That's the barely acceptable amount that leaves me comfortable with the stadium not being burned down at the end of the season. I need to see some reason to believe this team can go further than that. Can they actually make the playoffs and then pull off some stuff and make a run? The 2011 Giants are the worst team that I've ever seen in my life to win a Super Bowl. They ended that season with a negative point differential. But even during that season, they beat the Patriots in Foxborough. Patriots only went to the Super Bowl that year. They played toe-to-toe with Green Bay and Frisco, I believe both games on the road, the teams that were the number 1 and number 2 seeds in the NFC that year. They proved on multiple occasions that they could fight with the best of them, and they could beat the best of them. And that's what I want to see this weekend from Seattle. Prove it to me now, because you're going to run out of opportunities to do it if you don't get it done now. See you guys later. Go Hawks.